What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the DS Asylum. I'm your Warden, Dimitri Shrine, and today we are going to be taking a look at the second of the 3-year anniversary units, Red Super Saiyan 2 Kefla. It's kind of sad how we've already had 2 3-year anniversary units show up on the Fix series, and if I'm being honest, I could also look at Ice and Nova Shenron. It's really sad how garbage the quality of units were for the 3-year anniversary, but today, we are taking a look at Red Kefla, a unit that is interesting. Like, she wants to be a real heavy hitter. She wants to be that type of unit that comes in, does a lot, and gets out, but then at the same time, down here, she wants to have some longevity. She wants to stay in the match for a little while, but honestly, her 2 unique abilities conflict with each other a lot, because this first unique ability really wants her to just get in, do some damage, and get out. But then the second one wants her to stay in for a little while and take advantage of some vanish gauge manipulation and stuff. So it's really weird. She's got both of her unique abilities conflict with each other. It's just odd. It's just an odd design choice for a unit, and I do believe I can fix it. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the main ability first. Currently, it gives her ult, gives her 40 ki, nullifies special cover change for 15 counts, and 15% to impact damage received by all the enemies. I don't know why it says impact damage. Why not just damage? All of her moves are impact, so it's not like this isn't going to affect literally anything she does. And most units in the game just have impact damage, except for maybe on their ultimate and supers. I don't really understand the point of labeling impact damage. Just to be picky, just to nitpick a little bit, I'd change that to just 15% damage inflicted. I'd make that a buff for her, especially considering there's a lot of units in the game that are immune to attribute downgrades. So just as a little nitpick, I would, just give her the 15% damage inflicted on the main ability. But in terms of the things I would actually be changing, one, I would buff up that special cover change nullification to 30 counts, and I would add 30 counts of card draw speed. Now, I don't like adding things to people's kits. However, Kefla is going to be this weird exception where I'm able to add stuff because it coincides with what she's trying to do. When I am adding something to a unit's kit that I feel like they should have had from the beginning, then I will let adding new shit slide, because again, I felt like the unit should have had this stuff on release to begin with, so I'm not really breaking any rules by adding new shit because it coincides with what their kit wants them to do. And obviously, this main ability to me says combo and don't worry about it. Do a bunch of damage and don't worry about someone stopping it. And I feel like she should also be able to do that more than one time. I feel like she should be able to pop her main, do it, swap out, come back in and do it again, because she's an anniversary unit. She should be up there on the upper echelon of, sparkings. So let her do it twice. Simple. But just moving on to her first unique ability. Now, her first unique ability is weird. So she gets 60% damage inflicted, cannot be stacked, 30% reduced damage for 20 counts. I mean, that can't be stacked, so she essentially just gets 30% when she enters the battlefield. At no point are you going to keep her in for 20 counts. I mean, what? And then 60% to ki recovery for 15 timer counts. So she's got a permanent buff, a 20 count buff, and a 15 count buff. Every single time we go down a line, the amount of time that buff lasts becomes shorter. And then we've got applies the following effects itself every time this character uses a strike or blast arts card. Restores ki by 10, activates 3 times, 50% to damage inflicted for 15 timer counts, activates once. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. The reason why people think this Kefla does no damage is because you do that first card, it does no damage, and then your opponent swaps out into either a tankier unit or a unit with type advantage, and all of a sudden, that extra 50% literally means nothing. And as a result, she's not doing anything, and she's not getting anything past that. She's got a blanket 110% damage inflicted buff, which is not bad, but for her stats, she could use more. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna remove that entirely, all right? Not really. I'm not removing it entirely. I hate doing that. So we're going to change it, but pretty significantly. Instead of 60% damage inflicted cannot be stacked, I'm going to give her 90. All right? I'm going to give her 90%. So I added 30% to the first part of the unique. So what do I do with the other 20% that I obviously took from the last part of the unique ability? She can get that every single time she lands a Strike or Blast Arts card. Every time. But the caveat is she only gets it for 5 counts instead of the like 10 or 20 that Android 18 got, which is why she did so much damn damage. She can have the 20% the damage inflicted for 5 counts. You're never going to see more than maybe 3 or 4 buffs out of that. 4 if you got her on the card draw speed, 3 otherwise. Provided you swapped her in mid-combo and did not start the combo with her, obviously. This will enable her to do a bit more damage, and it will give you a reason to, bring her in. It'll give you a reason to bring her in a match, because she will be hitting hard as shit. That's how that's going to work. I mean, it's a fairly simple change. All I did was swap around the damage buffs. But other than that, I would make the reduced damage received buff just a permanent thing when the battle starts. Like, honestly, I would just make all of these applies the following effects when the character enters the battlefield. Make them all permanent from battle start. So when the battle starts, she gets 90% damage inflicted, 30% reduced damage, and 60% key recovery. That's it. She just keeps that. From the battle start till the battle end, she just has that. And then whenever she uses a Strike or Blast Arts card, she gets 20% damage inflicted for 5 timer counts. Fairly simple. She can keep the 10 key 3 times. Do not care. It doesn't really make that big a difference, honestly. 10 key allows you to use like 1 more card. So in her case, since she gets it 3 times, you could probably use like 2 more cards. Which if you haven't popped her main ability for the card draw speed, you're not going to see anyway. So there's only going to be a certain scenario in which that's even going to be helpful to you. So I see no reason to really change it. All right, now for the second one that really conflicts with what she's trying to do. So she wants to make the opponent vanish. It's not a matter of her vanishing. She wants to make the opponent vanish. And when the opponent vanishes her, she gets 20 key, 20% damage for 20 timer counts, and 60% to her own vanish gauge. Which, I'm gonna be honest with you, is kind of backwards. Because that's only going to be useful if I've already vanished. So I have to vanish an opponent's attack and make them vanish mine right afterwards without getting hit in order for this to activate. And because it's only 60% of vanish gauge recovery, I'm not going to get that back. And now I'm stuck in an animation and either have to hope that I can tap attack my opponent so I can get my vanish back, or just take a combo. It doesn't help me at all. Like, it doesn't help that I essentially have to use my own vanish. Otherwise, I either don't get any vanish back, and part of that unique is completely useless, or I get the vanish back, but because it's not enough to fully restore my vanish, I still get hit. Like, it's not good enough. It's not enough. It just isn't. It just isn't. At least if you told me if I vanished the opponent's attack, I got 60%, vanish gauge recovery, I could at least stall out, right? A lot of people like to wait, so I could stall out, wait a few seconds, hope my opponent doesn't come at me immediately, and then I can get my vanish back. There are strategies to getting your vanish back if you get it back from you vanishing the opponent's attack and not the opponent vanishing yours. But if the opponent has to vanish your attack, it's just this one big fucking circle that ends with you being hit anyway. So this whole unique ability is just dumb. It's just really stupid. She can keep the 20 key. I'd make it 30, but I mean, if you want, you can keep it at 20. I would give her, she can keep the 20% damage inflicted for 20 counts. Fine. However, since it only activates twice every time she's on the battlefield, just give her full vanish back. Like, honestly, you can get around all of this nonsense by just giving her full vanish back. There. Now, she's a unit that can actually do both come in, beat someone up, and have some longevity in the match. It only happens twice when she's on the battlefield. It's not like she can stay in forever and she just automatically gets her vanish back the second, she vanishes anything infinitely. The timer activation count resets when she switches, so every single time she comes in, she has 2 free vanishes. But I don't think it's that broken. It's a little bit broken, but come on, she's a 3-year anniversary unit. She's allowed to be broken. And besides, it's either I do this and she's kind of busted, or I leave it alone and this entire unique ability is worthless. And I would rather just make her an exceptionally good unit because of the celebration she was a part of, and just let her have all of her vanish back, honestly. And then the randomly draw 1 new card when you have 3 or fewer cards activates twice. Sure, fine. Like that's fine as well. However, the times where 4 cards are held are also counted as activations. No, remove that. Because if the opponent vanishes a tackle from me, or a tap blast, that should not count. Or at the very least, you should draw a card and have it on, the standby behind the cards. You shouldn't just not give me a card and then take that buff away from me. That's dumb. At the very least, have the card sitting there on standby. Don't just not give me the fucking card. So, yeah, just do that. Just do that. This video is all over the place because I'm kind of tired. I'm sorry. In terms of her strike and blast, they can stay the same. Super attack can stay the same. Don't really care. Massive plus 20% damage inflicted. Fine. Green card, restore own health by 15%. Applies attribute upgrade minus 30% enemy sustained damage cut to self for 10 timer counts. Fine, I guess. Like, there's a lot of reduced damage in the game, so that's going to be good for her. Next damage sustained reduces next damage sustained by 20%, cannot be stacked. This applies until enemy combo is finished. So, once you pop this green card, she essentially has 50% damage reduction. So, I would give her an extra 10%. The reason for that is it cannot be stacked. And how often are you going to use this green card? Realistically, no matter what team you're on, what team you put her on, there's probably a better green card that you could be using than hers. She gets health off of it, which is fantastic. Like that's the best part of the green card. The fact she gets 15% of her health back every single time she uses it. That's fantastic. However, I feel like it would just be better if you had more of a reason to use it. And if you were able to stack just that extra 10% to have 60% reduced damage, Kefla's not tanky. Kefla's defensive stats are not good. They're not terrible, right? I've most definitely seen lower defensive stats, but they're not phenomenal or anything. She's not going to be tanking hits. Even with 60% damage reduction, there's still a plethora of units in the game that will one-combo this Kefla with the right ultimate. So I don't think just adding an extra 10% to the reduced damage received is that bad. You can't stack it. I'm still not going to let you stack it. And she does get 15% health off of it. And if you do use this green card a lot, it can end up being annoying. So that's fine. And then the ultimate attack, massive impact, 30% to damage inflicted for 15 timer counts. Words are hard. And then reduced damage received by 20% for 15 timer counts. This is the one time where I'm just going to remove something entirely. And the reason why I'm going to remove something is because I'm going to replace it with something that makes a bit more sense. I don't need this Kefla to be having infinite reduced damage buffs. Like, genuinely, I don't need it to happen. What I would do is, instead of reducing her damage by 20% for 15 timer counts, I would restore her vanish and give her 50% to vanish gauge recovery for 15 timer counts. That's what I would put on the ultimate. Completely restore her vanish and give her a plus 50% vanish gauge recovery buff upon activation. There you go. And now I've made it so that this Kefla actually does what she's supposed to do. She's a heavy hitter that can stay in for a while. In other words, she's Kid fucking Boo. She's fucking Kid Boo, but not as good, which I'm perfectly fine with. Like, honestly, that's how they should have just built her. I was tempted to give her a Vanish Gauge recovery buff on the green card, but I feel like I'm replacing too much, because what I was gonna do was replace the sustained damage cut buff with a restoring vanish buff. I was gonna have it restore her vanish by maybe 30%. What the original plan was, right? I was gonna have her get the 60% Vanish Gauge recovery infinitely. I was going to remove the activates twice and give her that infinitely, and then give her 30% to her Vanish Gauge on the green card. But then I realized that is way too heavily dependent on having a green card in your hand. And I figured it would just be better if just twice only, every single time she entered the battlefield, she could just get her Vanish back, just 100%. And then the green card essentially just stayed the same, but she does then get some Vanish Gauge recovery buffs off of the ultimate. So there you go. Red Kefla fixed. Also, she holds a Strike and a Blast Arts card, so that's kind of why I want her offensive stats to be equal. So there. Did I even mention that? I don't know if I did. Well, now I did. I kind of want her offensive stats to be equal, even though she's a melee type. But she holds both cards, so she might as well have equal stats in both. And all of her buffs are damage buffs. There's no strike damage buffs here, so yep. There's Red Kefla. Fixed. Future me here. I forgot to actually review the kit as a whole. So, going down the line of what we did to Kefla, I made both of her offensive stats equal, and then her main ability is now drawing the ultimate, 40 key, 30 counts of cover change nullification, 15% damage inflicted, and 30 counts of card draw speed. The first unique ability is when the battle starts, 90% damage inflicted cannot be stacked or cancelled. Cannot be cancelled. Reduced damage received by 30% cannot be cancelled, plus 60% key recovery cannot be cancelled. And then applies the following effects every time this character uses a Strike or Blast Arts card. Restore own key by 10, activates 3 times, plus 20% the damage inflicted for 5 timer counts, with an infinite amount. And then obviously this whole activation count would not be there because there's nothing for it to reset. And then the second unique ability, whenever she makes the opponent vanish, she gets 20 key, 20% damage for 20 timer counts, restores her vanish completely 100% 2 times, gets a card 2 times, and then those will reset when she swaps out. And then in terms of the arts cards, the green card will now give her an extra 10%, so 30% sustained damage cuts. And then the ultimate, instead of giving her the 20% reduced damage, will fully restore her vanish and will give her 50% to Vanish Gauge recovery for 15 or 20 counts, probably 20 counts. And then that is Red Kefla. So back to past me. And I don't feel like I added too much. I did add a few things. However, like I said, I can justify it by giving her things that make sense for her, by giving her things that she should have had to begin with. But if you enjoyed this episode of the Fix series and want to see some more, do let me know who you want me to fix next in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, do make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, hit that join button if you can, it really does help the channel out. All the links you could ever want are in the description down below, and I will see all of you inmates back here at the asylum for the next video. Peace.